So good for you if you got the reference in the thumbnail. I'm probably going to make another joke about it at some point during this video too. But hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly Beastars Season 2 discussion videos. Today we're here to talk all about Episode 5, White is Still White in Monochrome. But before we get into the video proper, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about this week's episode. So when I heard the title, I'll admit I was a little confused, right? Because you see the title kind of early on, like, White is Still White in Monochrome. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, I know what that means in terms of, like, yeah, like, if everything becomes monochrome, white and black are still going to be white and black, you know, it's just everything else is going to be some sort of shade of gray. So I was like, okay, but, like, what does that mean? And in the very literal sense, it means Legosi is just a white wolf now. He looks very, like, very skinny now, too. I think without his gray fur, it's sort of throwing me. Like, I know it's Legosi, but, like, it's really throwing me off. And I'm not saying I hate it. Like, I do agree with Juno in the sense that, like, I don't necessarily think Legosi's hot, because I don't really find any of the characters in the show hot, because, you know, not into that. But I do think that Legosi does look sort of charming, like with like the all white fur. And he is literally, again, I said I was gonna make the joke, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get it out of the way now. Like that he is Legosi the White, and he comes back to us now at the turn of the tide. Like, he's literally pulled a Gandalf. Now, much like Gandalf, when Gandalf goes from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White, I just realized Legosi's fur was also pretty much gray, so that's kind of ironic. But much like Gandalf, him becoming the White Wizard, or in Legosi's case, the White Wolf, I wonder if it's sort of meant to indicate that there's a purity, like a pure essence coming out of Legosi now, in the same way that Gandalf the White is pretty much like Gandalf, like honed to his absolute limit. And Legosi does seem to be on that same sort of trajectory, where, like, Legosi the White is basically sort of Legosi really fine-tuning himself and sort of bringing out all the most pure aspects of himself while still desperately trying to become stronger. We see why he ends up as Legosi the White when we see what Goheen did to him. So I thought that Goheen was basically torturing Legosi. But it turns out he kind of is, but it turns out that, like, the sickle was mostly just to give Legosi, like, a crazy haircut. So now he's Legosi the White. And he sort of tossed him into a room, and made him wear, like, a karate gi, which I was like, that's kind of interesting. But he puts Legosi in a karate gi, tossed him into a locked room with a big slab of meat, and sort of has to train Legosi into not wanting it and to stop, like, salivating over it, because poor Legosi is basically trying to conquer his own instincts in order to, like, actually train himself not to, like, be that rabid over meat, you know, like, trying to teach him that to sort of overcome and conquer his more base carnivoristic, is that a word? Carnivoristic instincts, you know, like trying to conquer those carnivore, sort of carnivore mentality, and to really sort of power through. Will it work? I don't super know. We'll have to see. I will say that Pina, at the very least, seems to not really buy it. Like, I don't think Pina really is believing Legosi's story of, like, oh, you know, I'm helping my grandpa in the background, and that's why I'm going away. I do feel like Pina knows more than they're letting on, and I do think Pina probably knows, yeah, like, just in general, either knows about the whole, like, whoever catches the killer is the Beastar thing, or is just trying to suss out who killed Tem for their own reasons. I don't super know. There is an interesting point where Legosi swears he can smell a female scent, but the only ones in the room were Pina and Legosi. And as far as I was aware, Pina was a dude, so that's kind of like, okay, so maybe Pina's not a dude? I mean, I guess Pina never came out and outwardly said what their gender is, so I guess, like, I can't be too shocked, but, like, I mean, I don't know. I just assumed Pina was a guy, so that kind of threw me off. But Pina basically is just like a big creepy jerk for most of the scene. And when I say creepy, I don't mean like they were like evil or something. It's just the things they were saying and trying to do towards Legosi. Like, it obviously bothered Legosi, and he even said like, this is like a first where I feel an immense hatred towards a herbivore. This is kind of interesting. And it's like, I get it. Like, Pina is slowly trying to make their play for worst boy, you know, in the same way that Gabby this season has really made her play for worst girl. Pina really trying to make a play for worst boy right now. And it's working. I really despised everything with Pina this week. I thought Pina was such a jerk, and I did not appreciate the way that they sort of came at Legosi. I thought the whole thing was sort of like weird. I didn't really appreciate it. Again, I will say, like, Legosi the White is pretty dope looking. Cannot deny that. I think Pina is maybe stepping a little bit out of line to a point where even I'm sort of like, okay, starting to think you're kind of like I not that they're not interesting or badly written. It's just that, like, of all the characters so far, Pina is really making a play for worst boy. I do want to see what's going on with Pina, because I do think, like, why antagonize Legosi like that unless they think Legosi's the one who killed Tem? I'm not super sure what their play is, but I do want to see where it goes.
I am JoJo, the zombie, and I am burdened with glorious purpose. And that purpose is to tell you to hit that subscribe button. I'll wait. Thank you.
But like with most episodes, once we finish talking about Legosi, we of course have to then talk about best boy Louis. Now, Louis is visited very early on in the episode. I believe it's like right away by Juno, picking up with where we left last week, right on that cliffhanger. Like, how did Juno find out? And basically Juno just like kind of connects the dots essentially and figures out what's going on. Because Juno is a lot smarter than I feel like we really gave her credit for. And I loved the scene of them together, sort of like dancing and going over their old steps back when they were both on the drama team. And I hate to admit that I do kind of ship it, and I think Juno getting her heart broken by Legosi is probably the best thing that could have happened to the character. Because last season, I thought Juno was kind of annoying. I didn't really like Juno that much, but this season they're really making Juno quite interesting, and I like that she's sort of taken the heartbreak from Legosi in a way that's only sort of bettered her. You know, she's a lot more strong-willed. She's got a lot more backbone now. She's not as reliant on Legosi. She's still obviously into him, but she's sort of like able to stand on her own, and yet at the same time is aware that like there's some people who she wants to look after, like look after and take care of, and one of them is Louis, to some extent anyway, and actually makes an effort to go try to find him and track him down. And them dancing as the music plays, and again, like the Beastars soundtrack, I believe I said this either at the beginning of this season or maybe like the second episode, I don't super remember, but man, the OST still slaps. Like, Beastars OST is absolutely great. It's very jazzy and I appreciate it. And watching Louis and Juno sort of dance along and go over their steps again. And Juno says, like, you're really out of rhythm these days. And Louis is just like, and you've only improved, right? And it's like, this is very sweet. And again, I do kind of ship it. And that might seem bizarre, but that's only because it is. But yeah, I do kind of ship it a little bit. I kind of hope maybe Juno can pull Louis back from, you know, the precipice that he's on. Either her or Ibuki, because I don't know necessarily what I want for Louis at this point. I definitely don't want him to stay with the Shishigumi, only because I feel like they're gonna eat him. But I don't want him to leave because they're very interesting and this whole dynamic is very interesting. So I don't necessarily want him to leave right away. But I don't know what the end game for the Shishigumi and Louis is just yet. But I am very curious to see where it's gonna go. And especially the fact that Ibuki is so willing to have Louis back, like even like pinning what's his name to the wall and telling him like, if you even like think about eating him, we'll be having you for dinner next. And it's like, damn, Ibuki's that guy. Last thing I want to mention, and again it's another Louis one, is the whole scene of him like pulling a gun on his dad. I probably put it in the thumbnail knowing me, because like that was shocking, because we haven't seen Louis' dad since like the tail end of season 1, where like towards like the end of the season, where we see Louis sort of going over his own past and talking about how like his dad isn't really his dad, he's adopted, and his dad saved him from being sold as meat and all this stuff. And it was kind of sad to see that like they didn't really have much of a relationship, right? Like Louis says like we maybe eat together like once a month, and that's the only time we'll see each other, and yet I still look up to and respect you immensely. And you'd expect Louis' dad to be like, oh, fine, whatever, like you were a waste of time, and write him off or something, but he doesn't. He's very much like he pulls like a Shinji's dad from Ava, like he sits there with like his hands over his mouth. He's just very much like glaring at our boy and sort of dialing in what his adoptive son is saying to him, mostly that he's joined a criminal organization and will be leaving school and will no longer want anything to do with his old man. The thing is, though, it's very clear that he's only doing that as a way to protect his dad, so I don't necessarily know if the dad is even going to sign off on this. Like, I don't think he's going to want to go that far. But I will be very curious to see, like, if he does, what does that entail? Like, if he does write off Louis, does that mean that like he's just not going to have a connection with his old man and Cherryton anymore, or what does that even mean? It's all really at a point right now where I keep finding the episodes more and more interesting every week. I don't necessarily know if this week was particularly hype worthy outside of the end with the gun, because that was definitely a surprise, but I don't know if the whole episode was reaction worthy, but it was absolutely worth kind of dissecting and really digging into and having a discussion about. And I do have to wonder if Louis and his old man will ever, like, just have a full-out conversation about everything that's happening, because I don't know if he is planning on, like, leaving and then never coming back, or if he plans to, like, use some funds. Like, I don't super know what the plan is here, but I did find myself genuinely kind of surprised by how intense the scene was, and how much you genuinely wanted to see both of these characters come to some sort of agreement, you know, like instead of just completely cutting him out. Like, you don't necessarily want to see that for Louis, so I think having his adoptive father like just sort of like nod and listen and really take things in, I think it's only going to be more interesting next week, again, especially considering how Ibuki has been almost filling in this sort of father figure in lieu of Louis' dad. So I am very excited and curious to see what the hell is going to happen next week. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button. That gets you a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course your name scrolling past the screen here. Or you can go ahead and check out that Patreon link in the description. Either way, it is super appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron, and that is pretty much it for me, guys. So until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and you wash your dang hands.